rants must commence. So here we go. Oh, my candle's dead. Let me go find a live candle. I'll be right back. Alright, get your joints. Let's get comfortable. I prefer it if you're smoking weed while you listen to this, to be honest. Because I feel like you'll get it better if it's like a smoke sesh, alright? If you don't smoke weed, I don't hold it against you. Hold on, now I have way too much light. I'm back, and it's spooky time with the candle. I don't know. Let's commence. Yes. So I was having a conversation on the interwebs, and this is one of the reasons I need to just get off of social media. There was this guy talking about, he was like, he made a post about being thankful for the person who died on the cross for them, right? And me, being the person that I am, I'm like, well, you gotta be specific, because St. Peter was, like, hung on the cross upside down for y'all. Like, I mean, St. Peter also, you know, he picked up the torch for Jesus, and he, like, wanted to be crucified in a different way, so he didn't take away the glory from what Jesus did. But what I think he actually did was make it more more intense. Like, you're gonna go and get hung upside down because you're too whatever, okay? He's like still trying to be the better man. No, I'm kidding. But this kind of plays into my point here. But, so I was like, you know, be more specific. I said, you know, an upside down cross actually is the cross of St. Peter. It's not even the cross of Lucifer. It's funny that it gets tied to Satanism at all. But, whatever. That's a whole nother thing. And this guy's like, he's like, oh, well, you might follow, you know, the saints or study up on the saints, but I only follow Jesus, and da-da-da. And I was like, St. Peter was a disciple. He walked with Jesus. He picked up the torch after Jesus was crucified. He was considered one of, I mean, second best to John the Baptist, you know, like, freaking, what, you know? And so, and I was just like, so you're just gonna cast shame on, like, you just minimize the fuck out of St. Peter because you love Jesus, right? And I was like, and here's my problem with the Christians that just love Jesus, but don't give a fuck about reading the Bible. They don't give a fuck about actually getting to know Jesus, right? Like, this, like, they don't know that, like, Jesus stole corn on the Sabbath with his disciples from the Pharisees, right? He went out into their fields, they were eating all the corn, and then the priests showed up. And the priests were like, the hell are you guys doing? This is a Sabbath. You can't be eating. And then Jesus looks the dude dead in the fucking eyeballs. And he's like, when God is with my disciples, they do not need to fast. And he was like, whatever, right? Anybody who's read the Bible knows that Jesus actually stuck it to the Pharisees. He was abolishing the Old Testament, right? The Old Testament is the Torah, right? And I'm a Jew, no hate, you know, I'm just telling it like it be like. He was, I mean, he grew up in Egypt, right? Learning about Horus and Ra and all this shit, and you're gonna come back, and he's literally preaching against the, like, Judaism, pretty much, and then St. Paul, who wasn't even a motherfucking disciple while Jesus was alive, he's like, I'm just going to write the whole damn Bible. And you know what? Fuck the 13th disciple. She was a whore, you know? And he was like, oh, and fuck women altogether. Even though Jesus himself, like, showed honor to women and put them in higher positions of being teachers and disciples, mentors, and, like, Jesus loved women, right? Like, the whole story of Jesus begins with Mary and Elizabeth, right? Mary, his mother, Elizabeth, his aunt, and she gave birth to John the Baptist, right? They're cousins. And, you know, like, why don't Christians know this, right? It's frustrated as fuck. But then St. Paul, then he puts in all the homophobic shit. He smacks the Torah in front of the message of Jesus, right? And then they finished it off with, you know, basically a weird-ass plagiarism of the book of Elijah. That's all that the Revelations is. And, but whatever. Like, the part that actually has Jesus is this big, and it's the only part that fucking matters in the whole damn book. It's hilarious. It's from Matthew to Acts. Bam. Psalms is kind of dope. Proverbs too. But those were not really part of what Jesus was preaching either. You know, they were two different texts, right? The Old Testament, or the Torah, was written hundreds of years before, almost 1,000 years, I think. Like, almost 1,000 years before the New Testament. And it was written in Hebrew. The New Testament's in Greek, right? Like, but, you know, whatever. And St. Paul was killing Christians, killing people who believed in Jesus before Jesus, you know, like, was crucified and shit. St. Paul did nothing but preach against Jesus the entire time until after he's crucified. Then he takes up the spot for Judas. St. Peter really fucked up when he let St. Paul do that, okay? I'll give you that. But the guy did get hung upside down, so whatever, you know? But basically, this whole fucking rant, is that I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of people who are like, oh, I love Jesus, but they don't know shit about Jesus. They don't know about how cool he was. They don't know that he was hanging out with gamblers and thieves and hood rats and gangsters and prostitutes and whatever, dude. He loved them all. He chose those people on purpose because those were the people that needed to be saved from their circumstances, from shit that was going on in their lives. He chose the ones that needed it. You can't tell me that Joel Osteen fucking needs that, right? He lives in the material world. That's all he sees. That's all he strives for, you know? And it's like, if you really loved God, or if you really loved Jesus, you would try to understand either of them, you know? Either of them. Like, and, you know, we get caught up in these things where we have these stories passed down generation after generation. It's enculturation, you know? It's like shit that we're born into with all these stories about the Bible and stuff. And I've noticed, and it's weird, maybe it's because I'm autistic, I don't know, but like, people really act like they love Jesus and they will, like, refuse to read the Bible. You know, they don't want to know shit about the stories. They don't want to know, you know, and it's like, instead they'll just cherry pick what they like, and that's that, and it's good. And I'm like, me, as an alchemist, I read everything, right? I've read into every theology you could throw at me. I'm still learning new ones, you know? I, like, try to incorporate certain practices to try to understand them better. Like, I've practiced Ramadan. I've done Lent. You know, it's like, there are all these different, you know, practices that different religions do. You know, I've even been doing voodoo. Here's my lucky chicken split. You know, like, I just want to get into all of it, right? I just want to understand it all. And it makes me inquisitive, it makes me curious, and it makes me feel more in alignment with what the essence of God is. And I'm not saying that they're less godly. I'm sure that they have all the love and passion in the world for their God. It's just they don't know it. Like, they don't know their God, you know? They don't know the nature of it. Instead, they just conform to the ideal blindly, you know? Just like, oh, it's okay. Like, blind faith, whatever. And it's actually really dangerous to have blind faith, to just choose to believe something with your entire heart and soul without having any form of, like, data, scientific backing, anything to, like, solidify that it's even anything, you know? And, like, maybe that's why it was, like, good that I went through my spiritual cycles the way that I did, because I wanted to not believe it so much that it made me study it so much, you know? And I just couldn't stop, you know? It's like once you start unraveling how deep these fucking layers go with the different religions and the different caste systems they had and the different, all the shit, you know? It's like, it goes deep, bro, and you can learn about it infinitely, probably, right? Like, I don't even know if I have enough time in this lifetime to learn all the shit that I need to learn. And I do need to learn it, you know? But that's the thing. If you actually believe in God, try to know God, right? Go learn about the stories of the people who thought that they got the closest to it, you know? And it's like, you don't have to believe every fucking thing that you read. It's about your own pursuit. It's about finding your own personal truths, finding, you know, my spiritual experience is, I had a kind of a near-death experience, you know, and I felt my soul separate from my body. And that was it for me. I was like, now I know, you know, it was the most intense thing. It was like the back of my head just started going numb, and I just felt myself just disconnecting, and I was like chilling right here. I didn't even leave my body fully, but when I felt that I was a soul, like that I was more, I knew it more clearly, and then I understood what other things were more clearly, you know, like, me, I feel like this motherfucker is pretty cool, you know? And it's like, I can find the essence of God in everything, you know? And in anything that lives. Because everything that lives has a fucking soul, you know? It's very complex. It's very deep. It's part of the essence of God, you know? And, I mean, I have other videos where I explain, you know, like, how my scientific pursuit brought me to God. So, you know, you could look at those. But, because I don't have to go all the way through the spiel again. But, you know, it's like, and I don't believe that, like, the whole point of the story of Jesus was to see that he was not indestructible. You know? Like, the whole point of Jesus was for a giant memento mori, right? Remember you were mortal, but then also realize through your mortality that you're immortal. Because guess what, chicken butt, life goes on, and you're just gonna wake up in the next body, in the next century, doing some crazy shit. Probably the same shit, right? Because it's energetically familiar. You're not going to be able to stop, you know? It's like when you have a divine purpose, right? And you've already laid out in the Akashic records the kind of energy you are and the kind of traits you'll have, the kind of talents you'll have. Your talents lead you down your path, right? Your talents open up the doorway to help you understand who and what the hell you are, right? Those, like, when you're drawing shit that just comes out of the deep reaches of your consciousness, that's you connecting with the God inside of you. Like, I don't think y'all realize. Energy is eternal and it's conscious, right? Energy makes up almost 100% of what you are. Due to electron repulsion, you're barely a fraction of 1% matter, material, what you can see and feel, right? Like, barely a fraction of 1%. That's what it... That means that almost 100% of what you are is not visible to the naked eye. It can extend past this physical body, right? It can do more. And that's why, like, you can tell the difference when somebody has big energy and small energy, when they don't understand what they are. That's small energy because they stay confined to their material self. They don't understand that they can expand beyond that. That the electromagnetism that generates from the pulse of your heart, like transmits messages to other fucking empaths out there, right? Like, they can feel that shit. They know what's up. That's why people feel vibes, right? Like, that's why people pick up on those, like, unspoken cues, We're much more complex than I think people realize, And then we get so, like, bogged down with all these stories, and to just blindly believe anything is lazy. It's lazy. Okay, that's lazy spirituality, in my opinion. I feel like if you really give a fuck about what you're worshiping, you need to give all the fucks, right? You need to invest yourself in it. You need to wake up, and that's what you do. Your biggest goal to accomplish is to learn about what the fuck you're worshiping, And honestly, like, there comes a point, too, where you feel almost a mirrored energy from the universe, Where you can feel when you're on the right path. You can feel your ancestors kind of smiling down on you while you're doing your shit, when you really stop your ego from, like, fucking up a perfectly good situation, and then you feel that energy, like, even though, like, your ego was put into check, it's like a deeper kind of pride comes out, and it's like a more of a holistic, like, confidence. It's not like ego, I guess I wish that there was a differentiation there, because there are the authentic feelings of becoming better and feeling better for it, and that's not ego to take pride in your, like, betterment, the way that you handle situations better. I'm still working on some shit. Here, I'll be right back. But yeah, I'm back. But, like, when you go on a spiritual journey, it's a whole fucking journey. You gotta explore it to its deepest reaches, like how deep does the rabbit hole go, like, and if you don't have the time or energy for it, then it's really not that important to you, right? Then just get on with your material life, if you ain't got the time and energy to investigate your own belief system, right? Because the truth does not mind being questioned. It's lies that do, right? If you don't have a strong foundation of truth in what you believe, then it's going to really come off as lies, You gotta build that foundation, build a spiritual relationship, Like, when you have a relationship with the divine, it's literally like maintaining a relationship in life, Like, I get fucking scolded by my cars all the time, Like, my sister's witnessed it. She's like, I want to see you do a reading. And then it just told me all my faults. And I was like, well, see, it's not perfect for me either. Like, that's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be. If this life was easy, I wouldn't be fucking here trying to help y'all, right? I'm like, I feel like that's our biggest thing as a collective, we should be helping each other, building and growing together. We should be able to question shit together, Like, don't just believe in the Bible, try not to believe in it, Like, try not to, like, see how that fares you, because when there's something that is factual, like, you can try not to believe it all you want, but if evidence is blaring it right in your face, like, it is what it is, isn't it? Like, evolution, we breed dogs. We didn't have dogs before humans started making them. Like, that's evolution right there. Like, being able to breed a fucking wolf into a goddamn Pomeranian Chiweenie, like, how? how is a great wolf? Dude, I took my mom's pugs out for one full moon, right? And I was very excited. I was like, I'm going to teach them how to howl at the moon. It's going to be awesome. I took them outside, right? The moon is just bright. It's big. And I'm like, look at that, guys. And they both turned around and looked in the opposite direction, right? And I start howling at the moon. And they looked at me like I was the crazy one. They're wolf descendants. And they were looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, why are you screaming at the sky right now? Like, and, you know, like, that's evolution, you know? And that's how far off people have become from their own roots, you know? Like, think about humans were prosimians, you know, which were like these little lemur, squirrel-like creatures, little hominid things, you know, back when the dinosaurs roamed, and then they magically survived the you know, whatever happened. And then bam, now we have a bunch of idiots. And, you know, some that aren't, whatever. but you know what I mean. It gets frustrating because it's like, why can't evolution be an act of God? I see a lot of magic in it, right? Like, when I was learning about genetic engineering, right? And I learned about CRISPR and genetic modifications on humans and all that stuff. I almost got myself a kit too. I was like, I want to see what I can do, you know? And like people use it for dog breeding and all this stuff, you know? And just like thinking about how that works is fucking magic to me, right? It's magic. The way DNA works, the way that genetic flow, genetic drift, you know, adaptation, mutations, you know, like certain things that, you know, just come about. Like all these plants that I have here, I've got like a million just right here in my vicinity. You guys get to meet them. But yeah, all my plants right here, all these guys, propagations, right? They're not even the original plant. I don't even have the original plants here, actually. Yeah, so these are all clones. Okay, they're clones. You can't tell me that's not fucking magic, okay? It's like, I think that the problem is that a lot of people discredit the absolute magic that science is. And I went to school to be a scientist. I'll tell you what, it's absolute magic, okay? The numbers, absolute magic, right? Mathematics, it's like, everything is magical as fuck. And, you know, scientists are just witches that didn't get burned at the stake, okay? Like, they're the ones that, instead of putting on a cool hat, they put on a fucking lab coat, okay? They're like, oh, no, we're just doctors. We're not doing magic, you know? And they absolutely are, right? And, I mean, think about Wi-Fi. Think about Bluetooth. Think about all this shit. It's all magic. Fucking electric can openers. If you were to bring a person here from 2,000 years ago, they'd be looking around going, what the fuck happened here? They'd be like, what is this? This is a whole other planet. I stepped into a whole other planet. This is not the same shit, right? And I feel that, honestly, sorry, I got a message and it distracted me. I feel that, yeah, honestly, it's like being an alien coming back to this world. Like, you know, like, considering reincarnation, right? We're all born into this life. How fucking weird is this world to you, right? This is not the world that your energy was existing on before this, right? That's why you feel like a goddamn alien here. Like an astronaut in the ocean. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. Because people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. Sorry, I love that song. So pause this and go listen to that song. Yeah, fucking, that's what it's like. And then we have to re-navigate life with all this alien shit here. And we're doing it, you know, we're adaptable like that. But like, I feel like that's also another thing that amazes me about humans is like, y'all don't try to discover what you are, right? Like, it's like, once you get out of high school, oh, no more book learning for me. I'm just gonna, like, not learn anything unless it's, like, posted right in front of my face on a newsfeed somewhere. That's the only time, you know? And it's like, dude, like, have questions. Wonder about your honing canines. What happened to those? Why don't we have them anymore? Like, pretty interesting topic there, right? If you're still carnivorous, you still eat meat, like, why don't you have your honing canines anymore? I'll tell you why. The invention of, well, I wouldn't say the invention of fire came first, you know, but man discovering how to make fire is what made you lose your honing canines, right? Y'all don't even look close to what you should have looked like, okay? But yeah, like, I can't fathom looking around at this whole place and being like, nope, not magic at all, you know? And I feel like that's kind of what Christians are like. No hate if you're Christian, but, you know, like those die-hard, like, judge anybody who ain't like that kind of energy. And I'm talking about, you know, even myself, I've been there, and I was that guy. But it's like, they lose sight of the actual magic of, like, what it all is, where the power comes from, how we can wield the power ourselves, you know? People lose sight of that and instead just blindly follow a script, you know? Like, are you an NPC or are you, like, the main character digging to find out what the hell, you know? So get your ass on some research, like, ask some questions, learn about all the gods and goddesses. Why do we have these stories? What do they help with? You know what's crazy is, okay, I take care of kids, you know, and I'm a teacher and stuff, so I basically, like, have a couple of female girls that I take care of and, or hang out with, whatever, but, that I've been kind of, like, mentoring, I guess, I don't know, one's my niece, and the other's a girl that I take care of, so, yeah, but I've learned that with them developing and going through their preteen years and kind of, like, learning about themselves and becoming young women, like, the story of Athena, the story of Medusa, the story of, Aphrodite even, like, you know, all these goddesses, like, being able to talk to the girls about these goddesses helps them to understand goddesses aren't just, like, faultless, right? They're not just, like, faultless. Like, they have their own natures, you know? They have traumas from, you know, shit that the gods put them through, you know? They have shit, you know? And it's not just, like, some unattainable thing for a girl to strive to be a goddess, right? Because, like, honestly, the energy of being a goddess is, for one, to be a creator, right? Bring things to life. Bring life to life, you know? And, like, and to really, like, bring that, like, divine feminine energy into the world. And there's a hella divine feminine energy in men, too, you know? And I'm not excluding anybody here, I'm just saying, you know? Like, these stories of the gods and goddesses do help kids, you know? They do, because then they, like, like it's funny because the kids come to me about the stories. They go learn the stories and then they're like, tell me about Medusa. And I'm like, oh, that's a hard one. But you know what? Girls should know. Right? We shouldn't hide things from them. We shouldn't hide those stories, those legends from them. You know, these could really help them in their own development, their own growth, right? The goddess Athena, she's a prime example of, like, you don't need a man to have a happy ending, you know? And I think that's an important message for girls, too. You know, because, like, Athena, she was like, fuck this, I'm gonna go live with the animals and die a virgin. Like, I ain't gotta, you know, conform to whatever. And I think that's an important thing that we should be teaching the kids. They don't have to conform, right? That's something that I learned a lot growing up Christian. It was that conformity was everything. If you didn't look like every fucking buddy else, and if you didn't behave the way that every fucking buddy else was, then you're outcasted, right? You're the black sheep. And I couldn't do it. I know. How unpredictable. But I couldn't do it. And it's like, if God made us all so fucking diverse, right? So different, so unique. So we all have different talents, different strengths, different weaknesses, different things. Like, why would we be all so individually unique if we're all meant to be exactly the fucking same? Even evolution shows us that it's our differences that become our strengths, right? It even shows us that biodiversity, you know, and interracial mixing is a genetic strength for your offspring, you know, because then they're getting evolutionary advantages from different parts of the world, right? And that's why, like, racism based on, like, Christian beliefs is, like, ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's counterintuitive to the actual truths of the universe that we see in front of us, you know, the actual tangible things, you know. And I mean, now I love biodiversity because literally all of us are mixed with stuff, you know. Not one of us is just one certain thing, you know. Even white people, they all be like German, Russian, Irish, Scottish, and Italian, you know. They're not just one thing. They still have genetic evolutions from different parts of wherever. Nobody is just one thing. And, I feel like your spirituality should be in alignment with facts, you know? Like, really believe what you believe, right? And if you're gonna really believe that, you need to search out the truth for yourself, all right? There's not a perfect way to do that, but conforming to just one idea in one book just because that's popular opinion doesn't make it true or right or good, you know? Like, we need to ask questions. We need to be curious. We need to not stop seeking, right? Don't stop seeking truth. Don't just, like, give up on it, right? Like, you are a spiritual being having a human experience. It's not the other way around. You're just a little ghost. But, yeah, that's pretty much what I have for you guys. I'm gonna stop ranting. I don't know. I needed to get it out. It's like dealing with, you know, and, you know, I get judged a lot for, like, for the way that I am spiritually. People are like, how are you spiritual? You know, you talk like a fucking whatever the fuck. And I'm like, dude, I'm, like, hella spiritual. I do all the same shit Jesus did. I don't have sex. I hang out with the prostitutes and the freaking gangbangers and the thugs and the everybody, okay? Like, and, you know, I'm like, dude, like, if you guys were actually going to be like Jesus, go fucking be like Jesus then. go hang out in a casino for a while and let loose, okay? Because Jesus was often called a glutton and a drunk, right? They called him a wine bibber. A wine bibber is a drunk, right? Because he was always drinking wine and always eating food, okay? And then John the Baptist wasn't doing either, and they were like, he has a demon. So it's like, you can't please anybody, you know? It is what it is. But, like, you know, I feel like it's weird that Christianity became a popularity contest based on a guy who was the most unpopular amongst all the Pharisees, amongst so many people. Like, he was legit hated by the like elites and like all the upstanding citizens. They hated him. You know who fucking loved him? It was the fucking hood rats, dude. It was the hood rats. They were the support. It was the sick ones. It was the injured ones. It was the disabled ones. He wasn't trying to be best friends with the fucking leaders. He wasn't trying to be best friends with the cops. He wasn't conforming or fucking kissing anybody's ass, right? Like, he was just like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time, bitch. That's what he was. And you know what? And he did have a great time. Okay? And that's something that I feel like a lot of Christians, they take him so seriously. And it's like, dude, John the Baptist was cracking jokes like every 5 pages. How the fuck can you tell me that John the Baptist and Jesus are this hilarious and not fucking serious all the time? How? I don't get it. Like, Jesus was hilarious. I mean, he can't have grown up in Egypt and not gained some sort of sense of humor, right? I mean, God, he was being hunted down before he was even born. It's fucking wild, man. Like, I just feel like, you know, being knowledgeable and, like, in something you believe in. If you believe in a person, if you believe in their drive, you know, their whatever, then what do? You look into whatever they're doing, right? But nobody's looking into what Jesus did. They're just quoting scriptures and, like, taking everything out of context and, like, and having this holier than thou, high and mighty, like, ego trip. And it's like, Jesus was literally the opposite of that. Literally the opposite. He's walking through just being a fucking complete dork. And ain't nobody seeing it. And like, and it was the holy men in his time. The holy men in his time, right? The priests, all those guys who were rioting to have Jesus killed. Okay? Right? So, I mean, you can't trust the masses. And you can't trust where they go. If I teach you guys anything, if you see a flock of people and they're migrating together in one direction, find another trail. Okay? Don't, like, the path less traveled, right? Like, it might be less comfortable, less predictable, whatever, but, like, you're gonna find a lot more truth when you're not just taking in shit from the group, you know, letting the group dictate, you know, where things go and, you know, whatever. It's like, you know, we don't want to catch ourselves, like, just trying to give so much of a fuck about what other people think about our spirituality either, right? Because I feel like that's another, like, big thing, like, people treat spirituality like it's like this graceful, like, stairway to heaven, you know, like they don't talk about the reality of it. Let's talk about how ugly spirituality is in reality, okay? It's always, the more spiritual you are, the more challenges you're faced with. I know I said I was going to shut up and then I kept going. Whatever. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the challenges we face, right? Even the story of Job, that came from the Torah. Like, freaking, he had it worse than anybody, and he loved God the most, right? Even Hercules, right? The most favored son of Zeus. Guess what? Ain't nobody helping him through his challenges. Hell no. He had to hold up all the heavens for Atlas. And nobody was helping. In fact, Atlas tried to run away and not come back and help it, and not come back and take the heavens back, you know. But then, you know, he came back because he's noble, right? Like a Titan should be. And, you know, even Jesus, look at that. Son of God, right? Horus, another one. Osiris. You know, we could go on a whole list of how, like, the deeper you get, the harder the challenges go. You know, it's just like playing a video game. The more you level up, the harder the bosses are gonna get, right? This is just like 3D video games, okay? Your challenges will be more challenging. Your leaps will have to be much greater, you know? You're going to be catching yourself taking a lot of leaps of faith, right? Being like, all right, God, I don't know what the hell you're doing with my life, but let's go, let's do this, you know? That's the real, like, spiritual path, the real fucking journey. That's the thing that, you know, it's rough, you know, because you have to face all your own demons. You have to find your own shortcomings and have self-awareness and work on your shit, and like even self-discipline shit, you know, and you gotta not take it personally when the universe has to discipline you because you're just not catching certain messages, right? Like, believe me, like, I've been put through the fucking ringer, like, and I don't think, like, it's supposed to be easy. You're supposed to walk through the fire and find it refreshing. You're supposed to walk through the water and find that you're not drowning, right? Like, that's how you discover what you are and what the hell you're made out of, is in these challenges, these things that challenge you to show up in all your character, in all your realness, you know? Things that make you really, you know, take spiritual guidance from your ancestors when you feel it, you know? And you do feel it. It's that gut instinct. It's that monkey on the back feeling. You know when your ancestors are telling you. And you know what? I heard something recently that I think is very important. This guy was talking about, he's like, if you ask yourself a question, right? Like, should I get a coffee today? And say you have to really think about it. The answer is no, right? And that's a good way to work with your own intuition. If, you know, you're like, is this person good for me? And you really have to think about it. The answer is no. If if you shouldn't go down a certain, you know, whatever. If you shouldn't take a job, you know, or whatever. Really listen to your own intuition, right? Let your intuition guide you before your brain starts analyzing the situation too much, right? Because overthinking can cause you to miss your intuitive signs, you know? And sometimes you just gotta take action. Sometimes you gotta respond to your intuition first, you know? And that's gonna be like one of those challenging moments for you, but that's where it makes or breaks you. You know, it makes or breaks you. I've learned that the more I have faith in my path and the more I just go with it and I don't resist change, I don't resist obstacles, you know. In fact, you know, when the obstacle shows up, I like confront it head on. I'm like, here's the obstacle. how do I get you out of my way? And then I climb over it, you know? But, you know, sometimes, you know, the path of not resisting is, you know, during a time where you're catching a lot of resistance from, you know, your outside circumstances, right? Forces outside of yourself, other people and shit, right? And those are, you know, I'm losing my track. Fuck, I lost my track. Dang it. Yeah, but basically, like, you know, to really believe in something, you should really know it, right? I don't recommend having faith in anything you don't understand. To the fullest extent of your ability to understand anything, you should comprehend what you believe in. Comprehension is important, because otherwise, if you don't know what you're praying to, you don't know what you're praying to. You know, and there's a lot of forces in this universe. And so I just recommend being really informed, you know, and trusting your intuition. You know, ask questions, be curious, question everything. The truth doesn't mind being questioned. The truth will readily answer those questions, right? And if you seek the truth, you'll find it. It's the stuff that's deceptive or illusory, you know, that's going to really create a lot of obstacles, you know, and you know, nah, I'm not gonna go too far. I said good day. But yeah, I was about to spiral off into a whole other subject, and then I was like, you know what, I've been at you guys for 45 minutes. I should give you a break. But yes, I will catch you guys later. Namaste. I love you guys, and I'll see you.